Good morning. Is it on? Thank you. Good morning. Today's worship. Let me start here. My name is Barbara, and I'm the service coordinator today. And our mission here at All Souls is to seek truth, practice love, and celebrate life. Whether you're joining us for the first time, or if you've been a member for a long time, you are welcome here. Whatever faiths you have known or not known, whatever your heritage, you are welcome here. Whatever questions you hold, whatever truths you seek, whatever sorrow you have known, whatever joy has filled your heart, you are welcome here, you are loved, and you are welcome here. The service says announcements 2 times, the beginning and at the end. We're going to save them to the end so that we make sure there's room for all the speakers. So in the back of the teal book, the gray book, are some readings, and the first one is number 453, which we'll use to light the chalice. Yes, that would be wonderful. I thought I had the right page. Okay, we're going to read that responsibly when Reverend Allen lights the chalice.
It came on Thursday, nobody's here.
Okay.
Come on, Mike.
May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers, to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. Okay. So our first song is also in this book. It's number 361, and to rejoice and come in. There are 5 verses. We're going to sing the first 3. Number 649 is the first reading. You may be seated. And I will read the bold print, and the congregation can read the italics. In a house which becomes a home, one hands down and takes up the heritage of mind and heart, laughter and tears, musing and deeds.
Love, like a carefully loaded ship, crosses the gulf between generations.
Therefore, we do not neglect the ceremonies of our passage when we wed, when we die, and we are blessed with a child.
When we depart and when we return, when we plant and when we harvest.
Let us bring up our children. It is not the place of some official to hand them their heritage.
If others impart to our children our knowledge and ideas, they will lose all of us that is worthless and full of wonder.
Let us build memories in our children, lest they drag out our joyous lives. Lest them allow treasures to be lost because they have not been given the keys.
We live not by faith
Children want to come up? This is how it works. Okay, later, at the end of the service, your parents are going to hear from this lovely lady and our guest about a school in Mitchell called the Abbott House. And children go to that school for various reasons. Some of them might be learning problems. So I asked Virginia for a list of books that might have to do with the population there. And this is the only one I could find in our library. It wasn't on audio, but I think it's kind of a cool story. It's called Red, a crayon story. He was red. But he wasn't very good at it. Oh dear. His teacher thought he needed more practice. I'll draw you a red strawberry, and then you can draw a red story. You can do this, really. But he couldn't, really. Here's the teacher's strawberries, here's his strawberries. Like this? Oh no, let's try again. His mother thought he needed to mix with other colors. Why don't you two go out and draw a nice round orange? A really big one, a really orange one. But they made a big greenish one. His grandparents thought he wasn't warm enough. Your class is making self-portraits for parents' night. Wear this scarf to keep you warm. But it didn't work. Everyone seems to have something to say. Sometimes I wonder if it's really red at all. Don't be silly. It says red on the label. He comes that way, from the factory. Frankly, I don't think he's very bright. Well, he's lazy. Right, he got pressed too hard. I like to read upside down. Really apply himself. Give him time, he'll catch on. Of course he will. All the colors had a different opinion. But he didn't catch on. Green fogs, black sheep, brown cows, and red. Ugh. All the art supplies wanted to help. The masking tape thought he was broken, so he tried to fix him. The scissors thought his label was too tight, so he tried to cut it off. I thought he wasn't sharp enough. But even with all our help and all his hard work, he couldn't get the hang of it at all. One day, he met a new friend. Will you make a blue ocean for my boat? I can't, I'm red. Will you try? So he did. Thank you, it's perfect. You're welcome, it was very easy. But he didn't stop there. He made bluebells, blue jeans, a blue bird, a blue whale, and blueberries. And he said, I'm blue. And he was red crossed out blue. And everyone was talking, my son is brilliant. Who would have known he was blue? I always said he was blue. It was obvious. His blue ocean really lifted me up. All his work makes me happy. His blue strawberries are my favorite. I'm going to make a green lizard with him. It's a really big one. I hear he's working on a huge new project. And he really was. If you want to take this down to Sunday school, you can, but I would like to have it back at the end because I have to bring it back to the public library.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Come on, guys. Fish gotcha.
All right, we have a tradition here where we take a stone, we hold it in our hand, and we can express a joy that we have or concern that we have. And then we drop it into the water. And I'm first, so I'm just happy that I get to meet some new friends today. That's a joy.
Hi, I'm Liz. Woo. My joy and concern is today after the service, I'm going to help one of my brothers get his garage organized. And so that's a challenge for a lot of people to be able to spatially organize things. So I'm going there to help him out, and I'm excited that he's asked for my help.
I'm Alan, and the first one is a joy of thanks to Janet and Scott for hosting that circle supper on Thursday night. Really appreciate that. The second one, I'm glad to be part of a church that recognizes the seasons. And so I think most of you know that autumn came about 2.5 hours ago. So it's officially fall. It's the fall equinox today, half light and half dark. And then the last one is a concern for my cousin Marjorie Groman in Nebraska, who is ending near the end of her life with a tough bout of cancer.
My name's Mike, and a couple things. First, spatially challenged. I'm one of those. I'm going to try to organize my garage today on my own, so maybe I'll recruit you next week and we'll get it. A joy is I went to New York a couple weeks ago, saw Hamilton, and talking about learning things. I felt like a child relearning American history all over again. I think such a tremendous way to learn about our American history, to watch that and see it done in a whole different way than I learned in school. I thought, boy, if they could have excited me about history back in junior high school like that, I think maybe I would have gone to history like I love history now. The last thing, a friend of mine's mother passed away yesterday, and I don't know her exactly age. I think she was in her 90s, and she was staying with him for the last 4 years, and it was just amazing to get to meet her, and see her when she was doing much better, and gradually has gotten where she had hospice care. But you know, when families take in their other family members and take care of them, it's just a wonderful experience for everyone involved. It's a lot of work, and for all of them, but it was great to have the opportunity to get to know her. And her name is Judy Trzynka.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm just giving a cancer update since that's what I deal with. But I start radiation this Thursday, and I go until October 23rd, every Monday through Friday. So here goes less likely journey, hopefully. Thank you.
And it's harvest season, and I was very joyful to have all of our grapes harvested. We did that yesterday. And now they're all in the kitchen, in pots and buckets and bins. A lot of grapes.
Okay, we'll just take a moment for silent reflection for anything that wasn't made public. Okay, I've said this before, the next hymn is number 38. If you're as old as me, you're gonna think it was written by Cat Stevens. It wasn't.
Okay.
But it's one of my favorites. Morning has broken. The second reading, I didn't find in our hymnal, but I thought it was very appropriate for the topic, and it's printed there in your bulletin. We'll read it responsibly. It's from Matthew. Then children were brought to him, and he laid his hands on them and prayed. The disciples refused him, but Jesus said, "Let the children come to me, Do not hinder them, for such is the kingdom of heaven. All right, some of you know that I used to teach at the South Dakota School for the Deaf, which is a school where people go and stay in dorms, and that my husband worked at Children's Home Society, which also had dorms. But I was not familiar with Abbott House until my granddaughter got placed there in December. So I'm really interested to hear Virginia's story, and then she'll be bringing a guest with her.
Oh, that's fine. I better get away from that microphone, huh? Is that better? Put it down here a little bit. Can you hear me or up a little bit? I could probably shout actually, but. Is that better? Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
All right, way in the back. A little bit higher. Okay, so I don't blow you out. How's that? I tell you what, it's a pleasure for me to be here today. Abbott House is celebrating 85 years of helping children heal from trauma, abuse, and neglect this year. And so I've been with them for 14 years, and I will tell you, in the last 14 years, we've seen a lot of growth and change. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, but I'm not really the star of the show. Evelina's really the star of the show, so she's going to join me in a little bit. So I'm looking at the clock back there so I don't hog the time. Excuse me. So when Abbott House was created in 1939, our mission then is the same as it is today, to provide premier services for youth and families. And that's really what we try to do. We started out located in Mitchell, and we still have the most of the children we serve in Mitchell. We have in Mitchell a psychiatric residential treatment program. We also have therapeutic foster care in Mitchell, and we have independent living programs in Mitchell. But in addition to that, in 2013, because of the need to provide housing for kids across the state of South Dakota, we started building therapeutic foster homes in Rapid City and eventually in Sioux Falls. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the future here. So currently, we serve 121 children at any given time across the state. All of the kids that come into any of our programs come from South Dakota, and they've experienced some sort of trauma or abuse or neglect that gets them to our program, or perhaps had some self-harm tendencies. I won't read all this to you on the screen, but this kind of gives you a layout of what we have where. Actually, it all really started in 2013. When I started in 2010, we would have children that would come to the Abbott House, which is our psychiatric residential treatment program. And we have 45 kids in that program, 45 girls, ages 7 to 18. They can only stay with us until they're 18 years old. And in 2013, we had been saying to our board, we need to have a place for kids to go when they leave our program, because they come here and when they leave, they don't, a lot of times it's hard for them to have a place to go, because they're not an infant, they're not a small child. A lot of them are teenagers by that time in their lives. And so it's harder for a typical foster family to want to assume the role of taking on one of those children. And our board we tried and tried, and our board just wasn't ready to make the leap. And in 2013, we had a young lady who wrote a letter to God, and she said, "Dear God, give me a home and a family, someone that I can love and someone that will love me back. It'd be great if I knew who that person was, but if I don't, it's okay. Love, Cherokee." It didn't take very long for our board to decide that perhaps we needed to open some foster homes after they read that letter. And Cherokee has a great story. Unfortunately, she's now so grown up, she has her own child and doesn't live here anymore, so I can't bring her with me, but she spoke across the state sharing her story after that. Cherokee was the first child, the first girl to go in the first therapeutic foster home we opened in Mitchell, South Dakota, and that was in 2013. And our foster homes are a little bit different than the foster home you would think of when you hear of foster care in South Dakota, because we own the home. We buy the cars, we pay all the bills, we hire parents to live in that home, and we pay them a salary with benefits, and they get respite days off. They also have a supervisor for every 2 homes who helps to come in when if there's a child in crisis, or 2 or 3 kids have therapy sessions simultaneously. They have a person there to help them out all the time. And on their days off, when they're in having respite care, we have what we call a family support specialist, or I kind of consider them an aunt or uncle. It's the same person that comes in about every 10 days and spends time with the kids that are in that home, and they go to the same home every 10 or 12 days. So they get to build a relationship with the home. And so what we've seen happen over time is that kids that are in those foster homes do really, really well because they experience more of a normal family setting. And oftentimes they'll grow up with us. It really just depends. I'll talk a little more about that, but it's hard to describe average length of stay in those foster homes because some kids will come and stay for maybe 9 months till a family member builds a relationship with them and adopts them, and other kids will come and stay with us until they graduate from high school. And that really was Cherokee's story. So this gives you just a snippet picture of what we do in Mitchell. We have actually 4 foster homes in Mitchell. You can see the top, your right-hand corner is one of our foster homes. We have 2 of those that look exactly the same. Those are both girls' homes. We also have a 3rd girls' home. I didn't have room for all the pictures on here. And then this bottom home is actually a boys' home. And kids in those foster homes really can range from age 7 to 18. Oftentimes we'll have siblings in those homes. We also have in each of those homes, connected to the homes, we have independent living apartments, and you'll see that listed here on the slide. So once kids leave foster care, it's really challenging for them because I always tell people I feel like they've saved a little money while they've been working and living in our foster care and going to public school and doing sports and all that kind of stuff. And then we put a few $100s in their pocket that they've saved, and we send them out on the street when they're 18 and say, go forth and do well. And they just don't do very well, I'll be honest. I mean, I've had 18-year-old kids. I know how well my kids did, and the daily calls and the flat tire and all the little crises that come up in life. In fact, just yesterday we have an alum who's now 26. I think she's 26. She has a little girl. She lives here in Sioux Falls. She's working full-time. She's going to college. And she called with a crisis because she had no one else to call. And that's pretty typical of kids that are in our foster home and then go into our independent living program, which she did. And so we talked through the crisis. She was going to need a little bit of money. Abbott House has a little emergency fund we often use for situations like that. So I talked to her about what she'd have to do to get that money. And by the end of the day, we had the problem resolved. And so that's the great thing about these foster homes, is it can be an ongoing place of support for them. And the independent living apartments can serve that way as well. So that shows you what we have in Mitchell. Actually, just so you know, the picture on the left will be the building that Barb visits on Monday. That's the actual Abbott House. We are located in an old elementary school. We redid that school in the 1990s, and it's a great facility for us. In Rapid City, we have very similar programs. Except we have 2 therapeutic foster homes for boys and 2 for girls, and we also have 8 independent living apartments there, 4 for young men and 4 for young women. The 2 homes on the top were 2 existing homes we purchased in 2015 and 16 after we learned that there was young people sleeping in the offices of social care workers because there just wasn't a place for them. The social services department asked us to go to Rapid City. And the building on the bottom is 2 of our newest foster homes that we actually built in Rapid City in 2019 and 20, and we built those to be accessible to anyone, so they're all on one level, and they also have independent living apartments in them. So just a little bit about what Abbott House does to help, and we do this in All of these things happen in our psychiatric residential treatment program, which is in Mitchell, and many of them carry over into our foster homes. I'm not going to read all of these, but when every child comes to our programs, they're assessed spiritually, they're assessed intellectually or educationally, they're assessed physically. We want to make sure they don't have any sort of disease we don't know about. We look at their teeth, we look at everything, and they're assessed emotionally. And we know that they have to heal in all 4 of those areas before they leave us, or there really is no chance for them to be successful in the world today. Many of the children we get will come from Children's Home, whom some of you might be aware of here in Sioux Falls. We work really in partnership with them, providing different services. We serve a lot of older kids. They serve younger kids, and oftentimes, depending on the child, they could go from a Children's Home foster home into one of our more intensive therapeutic foster homes, or they could step down into one of their foster homes. So we work together with them a lot. But these are some of the things that we would provide that I'm going to talk to you about today. So family therapy, equine therapy, we give every child a sensory diet, we call it. I'll talk a little bit about that later, but different things that will help them, not so much diet as food intake, although that's part of it, but other things they can do to help their anxiety or their depression. And we have several other therapeutic programs you can see on there. What all of those programs are based on is trauma. And when I started at Abbott House in 2010, we were just switching to a trauma-informed program. And it's very evidence-based, and it really teaches kids how to take a look at whatever kind of trauma they've experienced. And I have to tell you, the first time we had a training on trauma, I had a young man who was doing the training, and he asked us all to, first he told his story, and he said, I didn't think I really had any trauma in my life. You know, I've lived a pretty good life, I had 2 parents, that kind of thing. And he said, then I took my 1-year-old son to a birthday party where there was a swimming pool. And he said, I was out of control. I just could not let that kid out of my sight. I was just after him. My wife finally said, what is wrong with you? And he said, we eventually went home, and I was telling my mom this story. And my mom said to me, well, when you were about 1 year old, you almost drowned. And he said, I never knew that before. But being in that pool triggered a trauma that had happened years and years earlier in his life. And I think if all of you think about it, you probably have a traumatic experience like that in your life. And it's just that as we're older, we have more tools to deal with those traumatic experiences. And often we may still need to see a therapist or a counselor, but when kids are really young and experience a lot of trauma, it's really hard for them to figure out how to manage it. And so often there are unusual behaviors that come up for no reason. And many times that's related to trauma. So on here you can see how we define trauma at Abbott House. And we know that it's an emotional shock that follows any kind of stressful situation in your life. So this is one of the therapies we use to help trauma. It is called Helping with Horsepower. We rebuild motorcycles. We take a damaged motorcycle, and the premise of the program is a child will rebuild a motorcycle as they rebuild their lives. So we do this at Abbott House. It's an all-girls project. No boys are allowed. The girls assess the motorcycle. They take it all apart. They determine what it's going to look like. They color a picture, and they help determine what paint's going to be used and what new parts will be put on it. So we just finished one last spring, and you can see in the top photo, that's what the motorcycle looked like when it was when it first arrived in the middle of the winter at our house. Didn't even have a seat on it. And the bottom picture is what it looked like when we raffled it off. This motorcycle is labeled Empower Her. It was donated by a woman, a motorcyclist who's been well known in the female motorcycle industry for years and years. And so it was a very appropriate title, and the kids decided on that title. Whoops, I want to go back one. Another therapy we have part of our sensory diets I commented to you about earlier. That's one of our therapies. So this is actually a couple different places in our building in Mitchell, but this is our sensory classroom, and there's lots of different tools in there, from swings to a climbing wall. There's bubble machines, there's different sensory things, modeling clay, different things for your fingers, there's weighted blankets, different things to help kids learn how to deal with their anxiety. There's also patterns all through the hallway. You'll see there on the lower right-hand corner. Sensory tools are built into every part of our program. Another therapy we do is eye movement desensitization. So this shows you a little bit about how it works. A child will sit in front of a light bar, and they actually, what's great about this is they don't have to talk about their trauma. It's through eye movement that they're able to process their trauma, because we've learned so much about the brain. Which after we started doing eye movement desensitization, EMDR, if I can say that, the next step we took, which we just started in the last few years, was neurofeedback. And neurofeedback is basically a biofeedback program where kids will wear a hat. I'll show you a couple of pictures. And that we have a machine that just scans their brain. It doesn't put anything into their brain. It just takes a picture of their brain waves, how tall they are, how long they are, how fast they're moving or slow they're moving. And we work with a company who assesses that picture of their brain. And then over the course of time, what we've found is those therapeutic treatments will help them slow down areas of their brain, speed up areas of their brain, help them be able to express things that they could never before express, because they can begin to formulate thoughts and ideas. So it looks a little bit like this. Evelyn told me on the way here she's done a little bit of neurofeedback, and when we have our discussion, she may talk about that a little bit. So a child sits in a chair, the hat's connected to our computer, which is on the right-hand side, and they basically, there's different tones that beep that help a child keep their brain in a certain range, and that's how how the machine is fed information, and then it will adjust its programming over time to help them speed up and slow down areas of their brain. So neurofeedback affects all of these types of symptoms and can help people with all these symptoms. So lots of different ways, and there's lots of different levels of neurofeedback, I will tell you that as well. Like the approach that we use does not really assist with traumatic brain injury, but it would assist with some of these other areas. So it's just really starting to enter our part of the country. But I would say right now it's probably one of our greatest tools that we have to help kids. Currently, we've had 58 girls who've received neurofeedback sessions. And this showed you where we are what we had for numbers in June. We provided 260 sessions and 48 assessments. And this is where a lot of the funding that we raise is what it's used for, because we do not get paid for any of these sessions, and they cost us about $100 a session. So you can see just in this quarter, just on this one therapy program, we've spent a considerable amount of money just helping kids. This shows you kind of the process for how it works. Really, in the first 10 sessions, kids don't really feel anything, or any patient. We've even had some of our staff do this. I think my boss got a lot nicer after he did this. I'm teasing. But he did do it, and he did say he felt some changes in it. So after 10 to 15 sessions, they'll start to be able to formulate thoughts better. Eventually, they'll start sharing more in therapy. Some students have reported being able to finally write out thoughts better. A lot of improved emotional control, you can see. They think more clearly. And I'll show you a brain scan here so you can kind of see. So this is one girl's brain scan, her initial brain scan, kind of like a baseline. You can see all the red spots in here. And this is after 80 sessions, so 80 one-hour sessions. see how much her brain has calmed down and got more into the green and yellow areas, sort of towards the center of that color legend. So I'm going to show you on this young lady, just, we could really see it. So this was her writing beforehand. It's kind of hard to read, wouldn't you say? We were trying to check these papers, my volunteers and they're pretty hard to check. And this was her writing after.
World difference.
That's how it helps people just kind of formulate thoughts and slow down their brain so that actually, from the brain to the hand, the messages get there. This is one of our greatest statements that we use for reminding people about trauma, and that is, if you remember nothing else about trauma or about what Abbott House does, every time you see someone who is showing some sort of misbehavior, kind of flipping their lid, or sometimes we call it having a tantrum, 9 times out of 10 there's a story behind that situation. And if you knew what the story was, it would probably break your heart. And that's true for adults as well as children. The support that we get, this shows you many of the things we use it for in addition to the therapy. Therapy, education, and these items are really what all of the annual funding that we raise goes to support. And with that, I'm going to invite Evelina up here because she is the star of the show. And I bet she could probably just use one of these microphones, couldn't she? Why don't you come on up? I just don't want us to both.
Stand or sit, whatever you feel.
She's going to share a little bit about, I'm going to tell just a little bit about what you do beforehand. Does that sound okay? So Evelina is one of our ambassadors in our school. We have a school at Abbott House, and most kids stay for an average of about 12 months when they come to our PRTF program. I know Evelina's been here a little bit longer than that, right? But through the process, they work through phases. So when they begin, they're all in phase 1, which is the beginning phase, kind of where you're learning the rules, adjusting to living in our homes and living with other kids. When they first come, they all get their own room, which is kind of nice, but there are rules about sharing the restroom and all those kind of things. So just learning what they can do and what they can't do. And then as they work their program, which each child is given an individual program after their assessment, as they work their program, they work through phases. And there's four phases, maybe, I guess you could say 5 as kids get ready to leave, right? And so once they move up in their phases, they can become a student ambassador. And so the ambassadors help plan all of the parties at Abbott House. What else do you do? They do speeches, they travel with me. They plan every month, we have a recognition event, they plan that. And any other special things that come up. If we have groups that come for a tour, they help give tours, that kind of thing. So Evelina is one of our ambassadors, and she agreed to share a little bit about her experience at Abbott House. So it's your turn. I'm turning it over to you. I think it's on. Yeah, just hold it real close, because you talk. Okay.
Hi, my name is Evelina, and
Okay, hold just a minute. Can you hear her?
No.
Let's see.
It's on. She just needs to hold it a little closer.
Hold it right like that, like right with your mouth on it.
Hi, my name is Evelina, and currently I'm 13, soon to be 14. I'm from Rapid City, South Dakota, and I've been at Abbott House for a year and 3 months. My parents were alcoholics, and my parents were drunk a lot. I grew up in an abusive home where I got hit, and I was run away. And so were my siblings, and my whole family were drunks and did drugs. My family didn't get along as
Just a bit,
well.
Evelyn.
We can hear it. She's on.
You can hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay. Hold it real close.
So last year, March 13, 2023, I had my sister Stella commit suicide. She passed away on September 23, 2023. I had another pass away. My mom. I was hurt and I didn't want to feel bad. I didn't want to feel that pain, so I thought if I hurt myself, I wouldn't feel anything. So I tried self-harming. I would run away, sneak out, do drugs, and smoke, but when I came to Abbott House, I learned new things. I also am about to be discharged soon. I have a therapist named Kelsey, and Kelsey has helped me talk through my trauma and build new relationships with people around me and helps me get my phases. I'm most proud of being able to do things. I like connecting and talking through my feelings and having enough encouragement to try and get through this without being alone, and having someone by my side encouraging me to keep on going. When I first came, I didn't listen. I was rude. I would make fun of kids at Abbott House, and I was not earning my phases. I didn't want to work my program until I got my phase 1. I didn't think I was going to get it, and when I did, I started turning things around. I still have my struggles, but now I'm at phase 4 and soon to be discharged. What I plan on doing is when I leave Abbott House, I plan on going to school and joining sports and doing boxing, and also plan on going to see my adoptive parents soon. When I get out of Abbott House, and I want to go home and start fresh and learn from my mistakes I made in the past. Thank you.
So how old are you? 13. So she has lived a very full life at the age of 13, and we'll be here afterward to answer questions and have discussions. So most of all, I just want to thank you for having us here. I also want to tell you one thing that I didn't get to put in this presentation is that we are celebrating our 85th anniversary on Saturday, August 26th. We're going to have a couple people, October 26th, yeah, that August wouldn't work, would it? October 26th, and it's at noon. We'd love to have you join us. We're going to have a couple of alums who share their story and have really just a celebration and thanking people for the support they've given us for 85 years. And we will be doing tours afterward at our psychiatric treatment facility where Evelina is at now on the half hour, and you'd be welcome to come and take a tour. Girls, I don't know, probably you'll be helping with the tours if you're still here. But we'll be having tours and girls helping to take people around just to give them a feel of what we do so it's not the mysterious building on the hill. So thank you for having us.
Well, like all congregations, we take up collections. What's a little bit unique is that half of the money collected today will go to our congregation, the other half will be given to the Abbott House. Would you just pass that up for me? closing song is number 395. We're gonna sing it in a round. We'll sing it through once, and then we're gonna try to divide into 4 groups. Okay, let's do this. Group 1, up to here, group 2 back there, group 3 up to here, group 4 up to there. Group 1.
Sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, let all things learning now. Sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, let all things learning now. Sing and rejoice, sing and
Maybe try once more. We do keep, so even, we do keep singing, we just keep repeating it, even if we're.
I think we need practice on rounds. We'll work on that.
All right, well, and next time.
Okay. So now, we have 5 minutes for announcements. Does anybody have an announcement that's not in the bulletin?
So today is the 22nd, and exactly 1 month from now is October 22nd, and that's the day, is it on? Okay. That's the day of our big program at Augustana University, so you'll be hearing a lot about that in the next 4 weeks. It's a Tuesday night, by the way. So we have these nice flyers, and there are a few out on the foyer, and if you would like to take a few, take only what you can use, and put them up where you work, where you shop, or whatever. I mean, where flyers are welcome. We don't want to be bugging people by putting them where they're not wanted. But where there are bulletin boards is a good place, you know, at the co-op or whatever. So it's going to be a great program, and as also we're having a little meeting on this Tuesday night at 7 to work on the publicity. So having you put up flyers is one form, but we'll do other forms of publicity. So if you know things about marketing and public relations, which a lot of us don't, if you'd like to come and help with that planning on Tuesday night at 7 here at the church. Thank you.
We're going to extinguish the chalice, and then just for our visitors downstairs, there'll be coffee, tea, whatever, for about 15 minutes. And then anybody that wants to come give feedback or ask more questions, come back up here about 1/4 after, 20 after. So, if you would read this with me. To extinguish the chalice.
It's extinguished, but the light goes with us out into the world.